Which Arkham faction would be the most ideal one to join? So in Arkham faction, for those that want to know what I'm actually talking about, are like villains and antagonists with an army behind them that create their faction, like the Penguin or Two-Face. Which one would be good as a henchman to join? Clown Puncher made a video discussing which ones are the strongest, but I'm more so talking about which ones as a henchman is best to join. Because yeah, you could join the Joker, you might get paid more, but he also might just kill you for the fun of it, right? So that's what this video is kind of about, and I will be ranking them here as you can see on this list. Employment Div being the best, and I'm finna die being the worst. The villains I think you would want to join as a henchman, I'm placing high on the list, and the villains I think you should avoid are at the bottom. And yeah, this should be fun, because the Arkham factions in the games play huge factors. There's tons of dialogue in the game between the henchmen that shed more light on the villains, and if they treat their armies well, or if they just kill them because they want to. So let's get started on ranking the Arkham factions in the Arkham games based on which ones are better than others. Please subscribe. Awesome, let's move on. Okay, so I'm gonna go in no particular order, I'm just gonna start randomly. So first off, let's start with the Penguin. Now, if you were a henchman looking for a villain to join up with, should you go to the Penguin? I think not. I think Penguin is not a good employer compared to other factions. The Penguin has been shown to be a complete menace in the Arkham games. He seems to not care if people that work for him die or get hurt. And I know the same can be said for most of, if not all, the factions in this video that I'm going to talk about, but in Penguin's case, he seems to enjoy the fact that they get hurt and also laughs in their face. This happens multiple times throughout the games. For example, after the bridge explodes in Arkham City, listen to what one of his henchmen says to him and how Penguin responds.
See, I told you it'd work. Blow the bridges, cut off the Cloud's forces. Easy. But Mr. Cobblepot, we're stuck too. So, we can't get back. And your point is? Well, it's just, you've left us over here with the Joker's crew. Try and take some of them down before you die, son. You bastard.
Penguin seems to like the idea of hearing people he works for get hurt. The same can't really be said for other villains, they just won't care. But other than that, there's just quite a number of instances with Penguin where he straight up threatens his henchmen and he also just doesn't hear what they have to say. Now, with all that said, Penguin does seem to pay well based on how many people work for him. I mean, as far as henchmen go, they seem to be more stable and not as insane as, say, Joker's henchmen. So maybe for the most part, Penguin never intentionally hurts his henchmen, like the guy on the bridge that got separated. Penguin didn't do that on purpose, and maybe his threats to his henchmen are just threats and he wouldn't act on it, you know? But still, Penguin does seem like the kind of guy to hurt you for doing even the smallest thing wrong. I could see myself dying randomly one day if he just felt like it. With all that said, I'm putting him in not ideal tier. He's not super insane or anything, nor does he seemingly go out of his way to hurt people, so he's not at the bottom, but I would avoid him if I can. Next up, Two-Face. So Two-Face I think is actually a fair leader, all things considered. I would place him above Penguin, and the reason for that is Two-Face, like I said, is a fair leader, all things considered. When you think of Penguin, he canonically has let his henchmen die. Two-Face really didn't have that element to him. Now, don't get me wrong, Two-Face will kill you. There's dialogue conversations in Arkham City that show how gruesome he could be.
We're sitting out here in the cold, while all the good stuff's happening in there. Just do what Two-Face says.
Yeah, don't let him start tossing that coin. If it comes up bad, you could be dead before you know it.
Just like Bailey.
Yeah, just like Bailey. Two-Face put him on a big-ass industrial saw and cut him clean in half.
But also with Two-Face, he actually incorporates and acknowledges his henchmen quite a bit. For example, in the Catwoman boss fight against him in Arkham City, he says, "We are the future of Gotham."
Good! This is our chance for glory. Word is Joker's dead. We all saw what happened to the runt that used to run this place. We are the future of Arkham. We are the future of Gotham! No one will dare stand up to us.
Which, if you really want to be that guy, you can infer he's talking about his two halves, but I think he meant him and his henchmen. The henchmen also seem to genuinely like working for him. The biggest threat is him using you as an example, which could result in a 50-50 chance of living rather than a 100% chance with other villains, right? He also provides rewards for his henchmen at times, like in his side mission Arkham Knight, he would have given an extra money reward to anyone who killed Batman, that kind of thing. And Harvey, all things considered, still has a kind side to him with one half anyway. I think for all those reasons, I honestly think that Two-Face is a good villain to work for, and if I were a henchman, I would probably work for him. I'd put him in world's greatest boss tier. Let's get to some lesser known villains. How about someone like Anarky? Now, Anarky I think is a pretty good person to work for. I mean, he was just a kid and he wasn't super maniacal or evil. Honestly, he would be pretty chill to work for because his motivations would resonate with a lot of people. Anarky is all about fighting against the corruption of Gotham in his own twisted way. There would be a ton of people that would help him out with that cause, as we saw in Arkham Origins. He never tortured anyone as far as we know. He never hurt anyone that worked for him. They helped him set up bombs and fight Batman. His followers seemed to kind of like him. I think all things considered, if you agree and follow his motivations, he would be a top tier villain to work for, which is why I would actually put him at the top of the list, employment diff. There was never anything that he did that would make me think otherwise, so I actually would put him at the top of the list. Next one, Bane. Now, Bane is another top tier contender for a villain you'd want to join. Bane's henchmen in Arkham Origins actually seemed to really like him. They were all very loyal to Bane until the very end. In fact, they were so loyal that even Bane's right-hand man got a whole side mission, which was Bird. Throughout Arkham Origins, the henchmen talk about Bane in a positive light about the hardships he faced. They actually respect him because of those things, which is a really cool thing to see. Out of every villain group here, I think Bane had the most respect because Bane made sure to take care of his thugs the best he can, and he can also kind of guarantee protection with how strong he is. Villains like Penguin, Two-Face, they could get beat by regular guys, right? Bane is a huge tank that can take on anybody, even Batman, which could be something he can use and instill fear into people that work for him, but he doesn't seem to do that. He instead seemingly shows respect for his henchmen, and this is based on the thug conversations about Bane throughout Arkham Origins. I mean, for the most part, they all followed him from Santa Prisca. You have to be a very loyal person to travel across the world for your boss, right? I honestly think because of those things, what Bane proved and how he treats his henchmen, he's a top tier villain to work for, at least in Arkham Origins, not the Rocksteady Bane. But Arkham Origins Bane, this dude I would work for in a heartbeat. I guess it kind of depends on if you're from Santa Prisca or not, right? Like, would Bane treat people from Gotham with the same respect with people from Santa Prisca? Not necessarily, but I can't see him hurting you on some BS or anything, so it still applies. Great villain to work for, employment diff. Next up, how about Tyger? Tyger sucks, I think, specifically in Arkham City with Hugo Strange, but I'll still talk about Arkham Shadow as well. Tyger is unlike other factions due to it being actually organized and official group, you know? But still, we see them being these corrupt people in Arkham Shadow, and in Arkham City, not only are they corrupt, but they're also brainwashed by Hugo Strange and tortured as well. So looking back at all of it, it's kind of hard to put Tyger in a specific tier because if you're a maniacal corrupt person, being a Tyger guard actually seems like a nice gig, especially in Arkham Shadow where Hugo Strange wasn't really around and they seem to do whatever they pleased. Before looking at Arkham City, which I think we should because it's the most recent version in terms of canon, a lot of them seem to be brainwashed. We saw one get tortured to death by Hugo in the reveal trailer. Audio tapes in the game with Hugo enforce the fact that he catered Tyger to his liking, which kind of screws over the henchmen. And those things seem to make the whole organization seem sketchy. But they still kind of got to rule over Arkham City and seem to enjoy being assholes. So I would actually put him in I suppose tier. Not the most ideal one to join, but they still kind of got to rule over Arkham City and seem to enjoy themselves being assholes. So I would put them in not ideal tier. They're not the most evil, but it does have some bad perks aligned with it. But I guess it has some good ones as well. Next person I want to talk about is Mad Hatter. Being a henchman for the Mad Hatter just seems like, honestly, really bad. I mean, we see that Mad Hatter does have followers with him in Arkham Origins. However, we know that they're used and killed off often by Jervis. I imagine that most of them are kidnapped and hypnotized by him to do so, but I can see regular people just joining his cause too. In Arkham Origins, we see that he sends people over to notify Batman of his evil plans and he just kills them off right then and there. In Arkham City, we see that he has people under his mind control abilities. We can't say for sure if these people joined willingly or not, but either way, it doesn't matter. Working as part of Mad Hatter's faction is bottom of the barrel, I think, because you have a very high chance of just dying or being in some perma-hypnotized state. Not an ideal villain to work for at all. He's an I'm finna die tier. He's awful. Okay, how about this one? How about Mr. Freeze? Freeze had an army in Arkham Origins for a little while. It's kind of hard to say. I want to say that Mr. Freeze is fair to the people he works for. There was nothing necessarily in the Arkham Origins Cold Heart DLC to say otherwise, but Mr. Freeze is someone that would do anything for his wife. He would let his henchmen die easily if it meant moving on to the next step to help her, but most of, if not all the factions on this list would let their henchmen die to reach their goals, so since I have no definitive proof of what Freeze would do to his henchmen, I think working as a part of his faction is honestly a pretty sweet deal. It's a limited time job offer, right? Like when Mr. Freeze needs to accomplish a specific task, he will hire people, making it less likely you will die working for him. But I could see him just foregoing all his henchmen and letting them die to save Nora, so I would put him in the middle. I put him in I suppose here. Not too bad, but not too good. Next up, how about Harley Quinn? We see Harley Quinn lead her own armies after Joker's death, and honestly, I think working for Harley is actually pretty chill, all things considered. We see a good amount of instances where Harley lets a lot of the things slide that her thugs have said to her. Like, for example, the goon that tried to get at Harley in the Harley Quinn Revenge DLC, she kind of just tells him to shut up and move on. And another example is this voice synthesizer bit in Arkham Knight. I feel like the Joker here would have for sure killed these guys, but Harley doesn't. It doesn't seem like she holds grudges or anything. There are stories in the games where she killed some of her henchmen though, but those reasons are honestly kind of legit for a villain. Like how in this Arkham Knight story, the guy tried to hurt Harley with her Joker statue, so she killed him for it, that kind of thing. But the thug conversations throughout the game seem like honestly Harley's henchmen joke around and have a good time, all things considered. They're more than likely getting their ass kicked by Batman, but that's besides the point. I think working for Harley honestly seems like not too bad of an idea. You're less likely to get killed by her than someone like Penguin. I would actually put her in World's Goodest Boss tier. She actually seems like a chill person to work for. Joker's not in the picture. Next one, this one's short. Dolatrons. I guess Dolatrons kind of count for Professor Pig. Obviously, this would be like the worst faction to work for. You're a Dolatron, mindless zombie that feels all the pain but can't do anything about it. I feel like I shouldn't even be talking about this, but I guess it kind of counts. I think it goes without saying the Dolatrons are like one of the worst of the worst. I mean, you don't even get to pick working for the guy. You're just forced to. So yeah, I'm finna die here because you're already pretty much dead. Next up, Black Mask. So Black Mask I wanted to put here because we do see his gang, honestly, a bit anyway in Arkham Origins and in Arkham Knight's Red Hood DLC. Black Mask's henchmen seem to respect him. I think Black Mask is like the bridge between the supervillains and regular criminals of Gotham, which I feel like fits a lot of people that want a criminal boss like that. They help him to fight Red Hood, who they know will kill them, which showcases their loyalty, and in Arkham Origins and his side missions, he still has loyal people with him even after Joker humiliates him. This kind of tells them that people will willingly side with him because they like him. If you compare it to the other mob bosses like Penguin, there's dialogue throughout the games where people question if they want to join him sometimes. It's never really the case with Black Mask. I'm sure he will punish people, but we never really hear anything like that unless I'm missing something. But I can definitely see him torturing his henchmen for the fun of it, so for that, I think he's an I suppose tier. Not a terrible boss to work for. I don't think he's that good, you know, like he's just in the middle. Next up, the Riddler. Riddler was a villain I honestly think would be really cool to work for. Most of Riddler's henchmen in the Arkham games just set up trophies or whatever around and get paid. This dialogue in Arkham Origins kind of shows that Riddler just pays his henchmen under the table and lets them be. Riddler doesn't seem to punish his henchmen, nor would he ever threaten them. And as far as jobs go, I mean, like I said, all he really does is just have them set up random trophies around and stuff. I think as far as everyone's concerned, picking the Riddler to work for would be a pretty sweet gig in Gotham. I mean, with this faction, all you really have to worry about is Batman, which is the same for all the factions here. I feel like the Riddler faction has limited spots, right? Like, Riddler doesn't need people to fight for him, more so people to set up stuff for him, which means less danger all around, and you still seem to get paid a lot. Honestly, for those reasons, I would put Riddler high up in the World's Goodest Boss tier. I can't see him with villains like Bane, but he's still pretty cool, so yeah, high tier. Okay, how about Killer Croc? Croc's kind of weird. So Croc kind of has a faction. Kind of. I mean, in the Arkham Knight DLC, the prisoners all kind of follow him around. Croc usually attracts people down on their luck to be with him, and he sort of actually protects them in a way. This mission in Arkham Knight is the only bit where we kind of see that side of him, so while it's not much to go off of, I think it does tell us a lot about working for him particularly. Now, he is kind of a douchebag, as you can see. He slaps someone with his tail and tells him to basically shut up, but he doesn't kill him. To me, it just felt like Croc's way of just telling the guy to shut up, right? Like nothing more. But during that fight, he actually picks up people knocked down by Batman and helps them up, showing that he cares for them in some shape or form. Because of that, I honestly think working for Croc would be top tier, because if you're someone like him where you are down on your luck and need someone to relate to, Croc could be that kind of boss. Now, I could be completely wrong on this. Croc in the Arkhamverse might be different from the comics, which in the comics, he takes people in. He actually is that kind of guy. In the Arkhamverse, he might just kill you, but I don't want to believe that. I think he would protect the people who help him as best as he can, so honestly I want to put him in employment div tier for that reason. There's nothing to suggest otherwise for me. He's really evil to everybody else, but not to the people in his position. Next up, how about the Militia? Honestly, the Militia to me is one of the best factions to work for. The Militia, unlike most of, if not all the previous, are the most organized and most respected. I mean, it's a giant army set up by Jason filled with all these professionals. They have money, equipment, training, and on top of all that, they have a good leader. Jason Todd, honestly, he seems like a good leader. He doesn't seem to kill or hurt anyone that work for him. He has threatened them before, but like in specific scenarios, such as when he told them that if anyone hurt Oracle, they would die, right? But you see so many scenarios in Arkham Knight where they just talk and have a good time. The Militia, they respect the lessons given to each other and make banter with each other. Being a part of the Militia, all things considered, as a faction is great. I feel like you get a camaraderie here. I mean, yeah, you lose to Batman, but you have a cool boss. You might have to worry about Scarecrow, but Scarecrow seemed to really not be in control of the Militia and just use them when he needed them to. Jason was the go-to person, and they all seem to like and respect him. I mean, as a faction, they're actually an army. Armies usually have bonds and create brotherships, and I think they showcased that well in Arkham Knight. Jason was stern, and people seemed to be nervous if they were messing up around him, but nothing was ever shown in the games where Jason would just harm them for the sake of harming them, right? And they were paid a lot, I imagine, so I think for those reasons, Jason is actually a top-tier person to work for, employment diff. If I had the skills and evil motivations, yeah, I'd work for Jason. Next up, the League of Assassins. Now, the League is honestly kind of hard to rank because they are unique, but let's just get into it. So I think the League is honestly pretty chill to work for. They're organized like Jason's group and respect each other, but they do get punished if they do things wrong. Also, we see how the League can kill each other from the Arkham Knight side mission, showing that there is a kind of power dynamic and animosity going on inside the group, which makes this faction not as stable to work for, but as an assassin, it's kind of something you have to expect, right? You can die for the people that you work with, but I do think their beliefs and structure make them pretty interesting to work for, but like the Penguin, you might just die to a change in the hierarchy, or even Ra's al Ghul just wanting to kill you, or Talia punishing you. Stuff like that I can see happening. But since it's an assassin group, like I said, it's different. I would put it in the middle. I feel like you would have to be more of a person willing to die for your cause to join, but I don't think they're the worst either. It's just, I feel like they're in the middle. And finally, last one on the list here, we got the Joker. Now, Joker is one of the worst, easily. One plus of working for the Joker is that you seem to get paid a lot working for him. However, outside that, working for him is like gambling with your life. There's multiple times in the games where Joker just kills people that work for him without a second thought. He killed Officer Balls when he was done with him. He tortures his henchmen for the fun of it. I feel like Joker obviously attracts insane people. The thugs who fight for him do seem to be just that, insane. So yeah, it makes sense why people work for him because they're crazy. It doesn't seem like you ever see normal people working for him. I mean, most of Joker's goons have insane dialogues, like this guy that ran over his sister because Joker said so. The Joker faction is legit for insane people that don't know what they're getting into. The Joker will just kill you if he feels like it. You might get paid a lot, but I feel like working for the Joker is for people that don't mind their next day being their last. And I feel like because of that, the Joker is bottom tier. And those are all the factions and what I think they rank on how good it is to work for each. I could be really wrong on some of these. I mean, there's so much dialogue and detail in these games that I may have missed some important dialogue, conversations, or details when making these decisions. And I may have missed some villains that people might count, but overall, I think it's a good list. Let me know what you think, and also, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, sub, share, comment, all that. Let me know how my list is, and go ahead and flame me in the comments for it. But I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe, and peace.